Hello and welcome to You Can't Polish Your Time Lord with me, Alex Leam, and I'm joined by Allan Lear and Micheal Legge. Gentlemen,
Hi.
hello. So on this show, imagine that I am in charge of the BBC archives and we need to make some space by permanently deleting some episodes, and Doctor Who is up for the chop once again, gentlemen, once again. So throughout this show, it'll be Allan and Michael's job to argue which episode should be saved, and I will have the deciding vote. We've got a suitably much-loved catchphrase to illustrate this. Delete, delete, delete. That never got old, did it? No, of course not. So before we do crack on, though, we have had some debate already about the name of the show, You Can't Polish Your Time Lord, because we do think you actually can, but if you do it a bit too vigorously, you trigger a regeneration.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's what makes Time Lord prostitution such a demanding profession.
So no sort of like scouring pads or anything like that. No.
Who's the Time Lord that needs most of a polishing? Probably Troughton, right?
Yeah, he does look grubby.
He's scruffy and dead. So, you know, could do with a bit of a polish.
On both counts. On both counts. So we're sticking with You Can't Polish Your Time Lord.
Sure.
Well, Michael suggested you can't polish a TARDIS.
But there is a fatal flaw to that. Yeah.
Which is?
One tiny flaw is that you can do it. Maybe not all of it, because it's massive.
On the outside, they did, because they had to get rid of all the pink at the end of the Happiness Patrol.
Yeah, in fact, we know from the Christopher Eccleston series that you can polish a TARDIS. But otherwise, it'd still have Bad Wolf on it. If it ever really had Bad Wolf on it in the first place, I don't know.
I'd have said a cheap respray job would be easier than buffing that off, but it depends on whether the wood of the TARDIS exterior is treated, because if it's not treated, you can't polish a TARDIS, but you can varnish a TARDIS.
Yeah, you would have thought they would have answered some of those questions in one of the, just for the fans, in one of the little nod for the fans.
Yeah. At least a tie-in book.
You would have thought so.
Yeah.
At the very least. At the very least. So we'll crack on then with our first episode up for debate. So, which episode is up for possible deletion first?
For the first showdown is going to be Silver Nemesis.
Okay, tell us a bit more about Silver Nemesis.
Well, Silver Nemesis was Sylvester McCoy's Cyberman story, and it tends to get a bit of a bad press for no reason that I can see, because it's got everything that a Cyberman story should have. It's got opera, it's got German philosophy, it's got Ace running around with a catapult twanging gold coins into people. The comedy sections, I think, work partly because of the charm of dear old what's his name, Richard Gerald, who plays Lady Painfort's sidekick, who plays it all dead straight. There's that sequence in the back of the limousine where they've travelled forward in time 300 years, and they're sat there with this American woman driving the limousine. She says, "Oh, I've come here from London. Oh, 3 days ride. Oh no, the traffic was pretty reasonable. We got here in 4 hours." And that it's played so straight that it actually works quite well. And the Queen turns up in it. It's set on location in Windsor Castle, you know. And they do
that though, don't they? For high-profile, long-term fans, they'll get in an episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, essentially, that was the stuff. Basically, the Queen there was foreshadowing Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat and Peter Capaldi all getting involved in the show. You know, that was the first of the Ultra fans. Yeah, and as we know, the Queen whiles away her quiet hours doing impressions of the first 6 Doctors. So, you can't falter for that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Queen is apparently, when people ask what the Queen's like in private life, the stock answer is she's got a great sense of humor, and she's a very good impressionist. So I think that's what she did. Yeah. Prince Philip doesn't watch the show. He just sits there baffled while the Queen pretends to be Peter Davison. What's all this panting, woman?
I believe he watched it. I believed he watched all of the Hartnell era. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. He was just sat there going, "Hit him with the fucking rock." Yeah, that's very much. That's very much his street.
So, Silver Nemesis, was this when they managed to actually blag some outdoor location shooting during Sylvester McCoy's era? Or was it the early days when it's still all studio based because they were starting to lose faith?
No, there's quite a lot of outdoor location on it. As I say, there was stuff shot at exteriors of Windsor Castle, was shot on location. I believe John Nathan Turner swung that by sleeping with Princess Margaret. I can't swear to that. But and a lot of it's set in the medieval forest of England. There's kind of Robin Hood riffs in it, and it suffered slightly from being shown out of order when it was broadcast because there was an ongoing plot arc with a chessboard that didn't make sense in the broadcast order, but does if you watch it in the order it was recorded. So I'm firmly of the belief that Silver Nemesis should be retained for future generations as an example of what you can do with a tiny budget if the monarch of a major country supports you.
Michael, your thoughts?
Do you know what I'm absolutely loving about this? And I'm voting for it to stay as well. What I'm loving about this is I know that Silver Nemesis exists. I know it does. I own Silver Nemesis. I have watched Silver Nemesis. And everything you've said is completely brand new to me. I have no memory of it. So I technically have found a missing Doctor Who episode story right now. I'm very excited. I mean, in many ways, there's a lot of the colour Doctor Who that maybe should have gone missing before a lot of the black and white stuff. But I'm glad I found this one. I know I'm going to be crushingly disappointed when I do watch it again and go, oh, fuck yeah, now I remember it. But that doesn't matter because I've got something that you do not have, and that is fanboy excitement, which is, let's face it, the thing that has kept us watching Doctor Who. The fact that, well, maybe our team will win this Saturday. I've got a fanboy buzz.
That's brilliant. You. That's amazing. On two levels. One, you've argued with Allan and also against him in the same sentence. So that's quite. I'm really confused now. So Allan, your extra thoughts.
Sorry, no. The only thing I was going to say there is, of course, that is the beauty of the missing episodes. Particularly, I think for a lot of Patrick Troughton fans, is that we can't watch the shows, and therefore they are fantastic. If we ever actually did watch,
absolutely, totally agree. I totally agree, and also I really like this concept. I really like the concept of this show. In as much as, you know, when Web of Fear came out and it was all really exciting, quite rightly, I think Web of Fear is fantastic. I was so excited about Web of Fear. All I could think of was, right, to make it absolutely fair and so that maybe some of the newer Doctor Who fans understand what we're talking about, we get rid of a Tennant one. Just get rid of it. Just so they know.
Okay,
you know,
okay.
Yeah.
As a side note, what would you vote for which Tennant story to delete to balance out?
I mean, what a list.
I'd go for Love and Monsters straight away. The Absorber.
Now I am defending Love and Monsters later in this very episode. Viewers, Alex did not know that Love and Monsters was on my list, but I am going to be defending Love and Monsters later in this very episode.
We'll stick a pin in that and come back to it.
I will take that over Journey's End any fucking day. It's like I watched that twice. I'm right. That's the title of it. The second part of the Davros episode, right?
Yeah.
Oh God! I don't think I've ever been angrier in my life. Keep in mind, I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. I have never been angrier than at that episode. I was on stage that night in Manchester at the Frog and Bucket, and I got heckled by a man who was massive, who then stood up and sort of vaguely threatened me. And I put the microphone down by my side and went, "Do not fuck with me tonight, because believe me, I will get involved." That's how angry. I was willing to risk my own fucking life because I was so angry with how Love and Monsters should be shown daily rather than Journey's End ever being discussed ever again.
Okay.
I mean, I have to say, I think at this early stage of the show, Micheal has persuaded me. I am now of the opinion that we should delete all Doctor Who episodes from the archives as soon as they've been broadcast. Yeah, and then
apart from Love and Monsters.
Do you know what? Wait, that's what they should say. Right, we've got a new series of Doctor Who. Oh, brilliant, when's it on? When we feel like it, maybe in 30, 40 years' time. Wait! We had to wait. Now fucking wait.
People appreciate things at the start. It's basic economics.
Yep. True. Circling back to Silver Nemesis, it's looking quite strong that it is going to be saved. I think what this now boils down to is the quality of the Cybermen that were in it. First question: were they too wordy and too emotional? Were they the ones that were saying excellent?
Or were they? It was your old-fashioned. It was your old-fashioned David Banks Cyberman. Yeah, they were. Right. They were of the decent quality. They had the handles and excellent. The cricket gloves all sprayed silver and what have you. And there was quite an elaborate thing in which the Nazis they're working with are trying to determine whether the Nazis are the giants and the Cybermen are the Supermen, or the other way around. So they've got Wagnerian opera and Nietzschean philosophy mixed up in it in a way that not even the writers fully understood. So it was, as you know, educational children's shows go, it was confusing as fuck. And as we all know, confusion is the first step towards bafflement.
I didn't know there was Nazis.
Oh God, yeah, there's Nazis.
That's news. That's it. Right then. Okay. Definite decision. Then it's official. Silver Nemesis is saved. Silver Nemesis is saved officially.
Thank you.
I'm completely sold. So Silver Nemesis is in. We'll move on to our next episode for consideration, which is
This is a very difficult one, and it's going to be very difficult for me to defend this one, especially as eloquently as Allan did. He did a brilliant job. I mean, I guess I'm supposed to be trying to, make sure your episodes don't get saved, but I'm totally on your side. So far, you are completely you're so well spoken. Look at me, I'm tripping all over my words. But here's why this is going to be hard. It's the Dominators, the 1968 Troughton 5-part tale, and it's going to be particularly hard for me to defend this because I've never got through the whole thing. So never, not once, and I've tried 3 times.
How many parts is it in? How many parts?
It's in 5 parts. I think I got close to the end, or maybe to the end of episode 3, when the DVD came out, and then months later, I went, look, I'm gonna get. It's gonna be all right. Of course, it's gonna be. Troughton's in. It's gonna be good. I love Troughton. I stopped at episode 2, like 5 minutes into episode 2, right? And then today I went, no, I've got time. I'm going to watch it. And I got through episode 1 before going, nah, that's all right. But I am still going to try and defend it. I suppose I could use the logic that I've used before, right? No matter what, I've technically got a missing Who. I haven't seen it. It could be brilliant. Maybe, it's like The Wire. I've got, did you only watch 3 episodes of The Dominators? It gets brilliant in episode 4. It's that whole thing. It's that whole philosophy of American TV. Something could be, and there are great things in it. Like right at the beginning of episode 1, the episode 1's the episode that I can talk about the most because I've seen it. There's a great, what are the aliens called, Allan? You'll remember they're called the Delicious or something like that. Is this the ones that are called the Crotons, which always makes me think like they should be floating in soup. They're called they're not called that, but it's not far off it. No, it's what are the actual, not the robots. They're called like Quakers. I know they're not called Quakers. Please don't write in. I know they're not called Quakers. They're not called Quakers, right? But they're called something like that.
Is it Quasars, the robots?
It's something I think.
Quasars
Quasars are the robots, but the peaceful aliens of the planet. Is it Dulcus or something like that? I can't remember. No one should remember. It should remain a mystery, which is why we should keep it. Am I doing well in this game? I don't know how well I'm doing this.
Again, you're making a great argument and also not at the same time.
Well, then let me tell you the good points. My favorite part, one of my favorite parts of all Doctor is nonsense. Of course, it's nonsense. We love nonsense, especially when it's sci-fi nonsense, technology nonsense. But there's nothing better than old technology nonsense that somehow that nonsense is now something that we live with. Like right now, we're talking on Zoom. The 1977, the idea of it's Star Wars, like they spoke to one another on telly. My tiny little mind was blown. And look at it, and now it's completely normal. That was predicted, and now it's exciting to look back on it. And it's the same with the Dominators. They go, this planet, it looks exactly like it did in my vision books that I grew up with. Vision books! They predicted television. Somehow in that TV show, they predicted TV. It's amazing.
Their vision books.
Don't get them a fucking way out, okay? Oh, hang on. You're helping me out. You're helping me out. They wear curtains. That's what I love about the national costume of whatever planet this is, the international costume of this planet. They wear like they're somewhat ashamed, like they've just stepped out of the shower. But that is normally how they dress, with the curtains right under their armpits. And that's which is also what I love about them as a race. All they talk about, the Doctor talks about it, Zoe talks about it. They all just go, yeah, well, they are a peaceful race. Well, Zoe, they're a very peaceful race. All this. They don't go, yeah, I'm fucking stupid. I mean, they look fucking ridiculous. No one's ever going, oh, I noticed they don't go to war. Well, you couldn't. The enemy's just going to point a gun and then drop the gun and go, what have you turned up in? Ha ha! You didn't expect us to look stupid, did you? Now, the Doctor brings a beach ball to a dead planet. When did Eccleston ever fucking do that? Never. He turned up with the right equipment, probably some sort of sonic screwdriver. Not Troughton. He finds a planet that's been post-nucleared, and he brings a beach ball. Why? No reason whatsoever. Doesn't help the plot. Doesn't do anything. But it's there. Oh, this.
My opinion is that's a problem with the Dominators, because that is a violation of Chekhov's beach ball, which states distinctly that any beach ball shown in episode 1 has to have been burst or deflated by episode 5.
Ha ha ha!
It may well be.
Fallen into my trap. Because it was already deflated. Ha ha! I didn't say it was blown up. No, he gave it to Jamie to blow up, which he didn't fucking do.
And that is why the Russians lost the space race. Carry on, Michael.
Speaking of blowing up, Alan, this will save this episode, if not the entire 5 episodes. The Dulcian, that's what they're called, the Dulcian race, right? The Dulcian race, their spaceship lands. Well, it sort of crash lands, doesn't it? But you see it floating through space. And so that's obviously this happened on the page. Oh, the spaceship flies through space, and then it crashes. And then a bit later, it explodes. Right, okay. So, special effects team, how's the ship looking? Fuck it, we'll just turn upside down an egg cup. That'll be fine. All right, okay. And how's it going to look for the external shots? Just get a tent. All right. And we're going to blow it up. So, will we just cut away and sort of have a reaction shot, but we won't actually see the explosion? Oh, no. We got 50,000 tons worth of dynamite that we can actually blow the shit out of something. Like, the explosion's phenomenal. How did they not think, well, do you know what? If we half the explosion budget, maybe we can make something quite... No one is touching our explosion budget. That we've got nothing else here, so we're keeping the explosions. Also, Ronald Allen's in it.
So
you're really going to delete Ronald Allen? No.
This is the days before BBC Drama had to pay for EastEnders, so explosions could be a lot bigger.
Yeah.
A lot better. Yeah. A couple of questions before we come to Alan's take on the Dominators. Are all of the episodes surviving, or are some of them animated or reconstructed?
As far as I know, they're all surviving, but I've only got as far as episode 3.
Okay. So you might suddenly get a Cosgrove Hall animation as a big surprise.
The Blu-ray, the DVD doesn't say that. DVD absolutely states that all 5 episodes are intact, but you're asking the wrong guy.
So if all 5 episodes are intact, that must make it probably the rarest serial of all of Troughton's, for the fact that an entire story is still there and operational. Alan, your take on the Dominators: delete or save?
Well, you just made an extremely good point, which is that it should be deleted in order to maintain continuity with the rest of Patrick Troughton's run. We can't have a whole story sitting around undeleted. It's just not fair, is it?
You're saying it's scarcity is better.
Yeah, scarcity is it? Yeah, people love scarcity. I was very excited by Michael's point about the future technology that we now have, because of course the quasars in the Dominators, the robots, are these things with the flappy arms that do that.
Terrible.
And these days we have hugging machines for severely autistic kids who need to be held for long periods. So there we go. Once again, Doctor Who's ahead of the curve there. I think the main point in favour of saving black and white episodes is because there is a section of fandom that recolorizes black and white episodes, and it would be. I'm not going to say it would be interesting to see what colour the Dominator curtains would be, but I will say the sort of people who would sit around colorizing things need to be kept busy, or there will be more massacres in schools.
Interesting point. Just weighing up all of the options with regards to Dominators before I make the final decision. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I've got something to add.
Go for it.
It's technically my Doctor Who, which upsets me a little bit, because if my mum had just held on for, I don't know, 5 weeks, which is probably asking a lot of her, I could have had MINDWARP, right? But instead, the very first episode was televised on the 10th of August, 1968. I was born on the 12th of August, 1968. This is technically my Doctor Who. So, I don't know if that means anything.
Maybe your mum was eager to make sure you wouldn't remember that specific story.
Well, she's done a great job, because I've not seen it.
There we go. Good work, Mum.
Yeah. Well, I think weighing everything up, the fact that it's a complete Troughton serial would stop incels shooting up a school, and also the fact that there's Jamie doesn't blow up a beach ball and they're wearing curtains, and also the emotional blackmail that was laid on us by Michael towards the end there. I think the Dominators is officially going to be saved. So Dominators is in. It's all fine. I don't want a dead school on my conscience. Right. So, on to our
This is hopeless.
Next.
We're going to end up with far too much Doctor Who left.
The night is young. The night is young. Our next episode, which is...
I am going to argue for the TV movie starring Paul McGann.
Right. So, why should we save the TV movie?
There were a lot of missteps made with the TV movie, primary amongst which was involving America. But I would be slightly interested actually to see another American co-production now that America has actually heard of Doctor Who, because in those days, no idea. And one of the criticisms that's levelled against the movie is that it tries to cram in too much of the backstory into an hour and a half of film. But looking at it the other way, that's a supreme achievement, because we are at that point, we're looking at 40 years of Doctor Who continuity that they managed to cram down into an hour and a half. They've cast Paul McGann, who is an excellent actor and is a very good Doctor, and is, undeniably one of the best things in the film. The scene, for instance, where he offers an LA cop a jelly baby so he can steal his gun, and then threatens to shoot himself rather than put anyone else in danger, I think is very doctory. kind of quite modern Doctor, rather than classic Doctor, but still rather Doctor. Daphne Ashbrook, who plays his love interest, Grace, is a wonderful human being, very batty. She's very good in the film, and I have personally overheard her referring to Donald Trump as that motherfucker. So I'm very happy with Daphne Ashbrook being in it. I think the budgeting, unusually, is very good. Eric Roberts chews the scenery very nicely as the Master. I know some people prefer the Roger Delgado quiet Masters, but for camp over-the-top Masters, Eric Roberts does a pretty good job. The Eye of Harmony, it looks brilliant. The interior of the TARDIS, all Gothic architecture and stone vaults, is gorgeous. I think a lot of people think of it as a missed opportunity, but I would say that, in fact, it is more of a slightly qualified success. I think it sets out to achieve what it's supposed to achieve very well. And it's not our fault. It's not the TV movie's fault. But in 1996, the Americans were too backward to appreciate.
On the point of American involvement in the world of Who, they did do a soft reboot of Torchwood, which was a half American, half BBC production. And off he goes. There he goes. Yes. Which many argue was the death of Torchwood, the TV show. So do you think in the time since that would have gotten any better if there was another American co-production?
Well, I mean, firstly, I'm not here to defend Torchwood or any particular series of Torchwood, although Children of Earth, of course, is amazing. What I would point out is that Series 4 may have been the death of Torchwood, but probably no more so than Series 2 or Series 1, which were also terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the first 5 minutes of episode 1 for me was the death of Torchwood.
Well, I don't think the
Contraception
Americans
in the rain.
buggered Torchwood up. I think it was substantially buggered up in the conceiving and writing stage of the process, and the Americans did little more than, as it were, to kick it when it was down.
So they did a favour to us.
Yeah, yes, mercy killing.
Absolutely.
Mercy killing. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's tipping the balance towards saving. What about the fact that the Doctor was all of a sudden half human in the TV movie?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that was obviously a mistake. But the great thing about Doctor Who is that it doesn't respect its continuity at all. By the time you get to the TV movie, I mean, one of the Genesis of the Daleks, one of the greatest serials of Doctor Who ever, is a total continuity reboot of the Daleks, because Davros suddenly appears, and he didn't appear in Doctor Who and the Daleks back in William Hartnell's day. You know, they had the Brain and Morbius with the 8 extra Doctors who weren't canon, but now they are again. And Gallifrey's been destroyed and rebuilt and destroyed. It deliberately, I think, in efforts to reboot the continuity of Doctor Who several times. So, I mean, the fact that the Doctor is temporarily half human, I don't think is particularly a problem. And there is, to turn that argument completely on its head, there is a continuity argument for saying that Time Lords can be part of the species, because, of course, I think it's the Keeper of Traken, the Master steals the body of a Trakenite to turn into Anthony Ainley. So there may be individual bodies that are infected by the DNA of other species that can then be rejected at the next regeneration. So, maybe Grace doesn't keep a clean pathology lab, and Paul McGann just incorporated some DNA from a human corpse lying around on the slab.
What a fucking nerd. But yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I was going to say, Michael, your take, but I think we've got a punchy opening there. So Michael.
Well, I do have a take. And once again, if I've got the entire concept of this wrong, I apologize. But what I'm going to do is completely defend everything that Alan's saying, because, again, he said it beautifully. But here are two things that have to be remembered about this movie. Well, three things. One, it's good. It's a pretty good episode. It's not the best, but it's fine. There's certainly far worse than that. But here are the two main factors. One, it is easily, and I mean by far, Sylvester McCoy's best performance as the Doctor. He's brilliant in it. He's brilliant to the point where, oh, fucking hell, don't get rid of him. And I'm not saying McGann's bad. McGann's brilliant. But I wanted more of that McCoy, especially when he like wakes up on the fucking operating table. He's terrified, and it's really, really good. Second, and very, very, very important part of this argument, that's easily the best TARDIS interior. It's amazing.
Lovely.
Okay.
So it is lovely. You're right. It's lovely.
It is beautiful. Saying this was like mid to late 90s as well. And if this episode was to be permanently deleted, would we lose the only bridge between classic and new? Because they do say that the TV movie is sort of like a link between the two.
Yes, I'd say so, because it's you as Michael says, you get the official end of Sylvester McCoy's Doctor, and it's interesting you point out how good because it's well known in the show that he was an actor when he joined, so he's not very good in Time of the Romney, but by the end of Remembrance of the Daleks and The Curse of Fenric, he's actually rather good in the role, and it only makes sense that he's continued to improve as he's worked, you know. Yeah, so I think that's so. I think he's Paul McGann is counted in amongst the official canon of Doctors for the new series when you get up to the number 13 and how Peter Capaldi how Matt Smith can regenerate into Peter Capaldi and all that sort of thing. So I think that probably is the firmest link between the two styles of show.
Is there any bad points that would bring this up for permanent deletion?
Eric Roberts?
Now, I mean, I remember at the time, and I was 13, I think, when it was on. I thought Eric Roberts as the Master was the coolest thing ever, because I was aware of the Terminator films, so I got the reference, but I just thought, well, this is brilliant. This is fantastic. It's only as I've gotten older and more cynical that Eric Roberts is the Master. I'm thinking, oh, please. And I sound like that when I'm being cynical as well.
I do like the idea of the Master as a bit of a thug. I mean, I sort of, I mean, we're supposed to think of him as this great intellect, but if he's also a bit tasty, there's a couple of things then we have to be scared of, which is, I think that would be an amazing part. But I'm not sure he really carried that off, and I think it pushed. Listen, I'm in defense of it. I would watch that right now if I wasn't speaking to you. I'd be very rude if I suddenly put that on. But I'd happily watch the Doctor Who movie. But I see it for all its flaws. But I could say that about any Doctor Who that I absolutely love. I think it's really good. I don't think Eric Roberts is a great Master. Gosh, I guess I have to go to prison now. But that's my controversial opinion.
When you said he's a bit of a thug and he's a bit tasty, just this weird idea popped into my head. It's like 1996, they could have got Grant Micheal to play the Master. Could you just picture that? Just
they could have got Vinnie Jones.
But yeah, so you're going to go straight to the eye of harmony, son.
Yeah.
So, but that would work. That would do it for me. Yeah. Cockney as the Master. My final thoughts then, the TV movie. Well, I mean, I love the TV movie myself. So I was very happy when it was on originally. But nobody has given a good enough reason for it to be permanently purged from the archives. And I think we'd lose. Oh, hello. Any reason?
It's dedicated to the memory of John Pertwee as well. So if you delete the movie, that's an insult to Pertwee.
You piece of shit. Yeah. I mean, even thinking of deleting it. What? Do you know what? Why don't you go and find the guy's grave and smash his gravestone to pieces?
Well, on that end, the decision is final. The TV movie is saved from deletion. It's staying in. So that's 2 for Allan saved, 1 for Michael saved. No deletions yet.
Okay.
Which one do we have next?
Well, I've gone for Warriors of the Deep. I don't know if you remember Warriors of the Deep. It's difficult to love. I will say that. It's the Cold War drama, but which they've done loads of times anyway in Doctor Who. But you can't really go mad about the plot. It's a tale as old as time itself. Mankind is under threat from fish, and it looks like the fish might win this time. There's a military base beneath the sea, but that's also, and spoiler, where fish live, right? That's where the fish live. Now, here
if only we'd thought of that.
Yeah, right. Now it seems so fucking obvious. You know,
this is starting to sound like the Brexit deal before Christmas.
You know, we didn't think about the fish.
No,
and now it's all about the fish. So, a military base is built under the sea. The Silurians, which are a type of fish, they decide they do this every so often. The Silurians, they go, let's be quiet for a bit, and then we'll take over the planet. Shh, but don't tell anyone. And they're having one of those moments. They're going right. There's a base there. We'll just sneak past the base, and then we'll go up and kill everyone on the planet. Unfortunately, the military. And by the way, they are incredible military on board that Sea Base 4. I don't know if you remember the armed militia. Militia, is that the right phrase? I think I've used militia wrong. Doesn't matter. The armed guards inside Sea Base 4 are amazing because they're beekeepers. And it's just nice to see soldiers have an extra hobby while working, so far beneath the sea. Basically, they see the Silurians, they go, well, let's attack it, even though the Doctor's going, oh, whatever you do, don't attack the Silurians. Well, but the Silurians want to kill everyone. No, they are a noble race. Yeah, noble and trying to kill everyone. He's always on the side of the bad guy, the Doctor, initially. He's like, I understand that you've got to give everyone a fair chance, but they are definitely trying to kill everyone. So, I don't know, Singham's a noble or, they dress well or whatever. You can't sort of go, oh my God, they're killing everyone. No, don't. I fancy them. That's not a good enough reason to maybe not fight back. Anyway,
I hate to bring up Donald Trump again, but the Doctor's there going, well, no, there are very fine people on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? The Doctor is Megan Amran's Twitter account. Today is the day Donald Trump finally became my president. So, here are the plus points of the quite possibly plotless Warriors of the Deep.
Okay.
It is the only, and correct me if I'm wrong, it is the only example of a wobbly set that I can genuinely think of in Doctor Who. Okay. There's a massive stone pillar embedded into the sea. And when a Silurian accidentally bumps into it, it wobbles like fuck. Here's the thing. We have to look back at the very first the very first James Bond movie, Dr. No. If you've ever seen that, I watched it, I'd say about 4 years ago for the very first time. And I watched it and I went, I have no idea how a second movie came out of this. It's so horrible. It's racist and offensive. And Sean Connery is such a fucking prick that I can't get my head around how anyone got to the end of that movie and went, I would like to see more of that young man. I would like to see nothing of him. And yet, this is what we constantly see with Doctor Who. We see not so good plots. We see, not so good special effects. We see fish that we're supposed to be scared of. But it is filled with charm of a man in a terrible suit bumping into a solid stone pillar and it wobbling around and us going, oh, that is why I keep watching. Also, it's got fish technology. Imagine that. Actual fish technology. I don't know if you know this. Silurians, they're incredibly intelligent creatures because not only have they've made two things, right? They've made two things. incredible weaponry that will kill everyone, and also sliding doors, and absolutely nothing in between. Those are the two bits of technology they've absolutely done. They haven't made a mobile phone. They haven't, sort of made, one of those pepper grinders have a little light in them. They haven't done anything. It's two things they've done, and they haven't thought about another form of them. Got lights, or they've got lights in their head. I don't know why, but they do. I really like the actual sets in this story, because I suppose in many ways it's the opposite of what was happening in the Dominators with the Vision books. You saw old technology being used, in a sort of retro fashion. Because what year? I think it's 2084. Yeah, I've written it down. 2084. And it's nice to think in 2084 that all of a sudden school tellies will make a comeback, because school tellies are absolutely everywhere on board this military base, as are, those little round blue signs that say, keep this door closed at all times. And that's what I kind of love about the Sea Base 4. It is a health and safety dream come true. There's not one of those corridors that you see anyone running down that doesn't have a fire hose and a fire extinguisher. They thought of safety first. They don't care how unrealistic everything else is. They know kids will watch that and go, do you know what? I was enjoying it until I was taken right out of the adventure by the fact that there's absolutely no health and safety in this episode whatsoever.
The doctor
there's a great 10 minutes where
the doctor came across a door that somebody had propped open with a fire extinguisher, and it just took me right out of the whole plot.
That's it. No. Do you know what? That could be everyone wiped out.
There was a great 10 minutes where a Silurian did a risk assessment. I enjoyed that.
It's got one of my favourite lines of Doctor Who ever. I don't know if you remember the scene, but Turlough and Tegan have been spotted by the armed guards and chased down one of the very, very, very health and safety conscious corridors. And Tegan runs past the door, which it's a metal sliding door, which closes just before Turlough gets to it. And then Turlough's sort of stuck with these guys, pointing guns, while Tegan's run off. And Turlough goes, "Yes, Tegan, run for your life." Do you know what, mate? She's gone. She did not wait for you for a fucking second. She's absolutely already done that. Basically, you can hear Tegan go, "Yeah, enjoy your beating, Turlough." I mean, she has really, really, really split. So, I mean, you can't get better.
But the thing is, though, what you've got to remember is that Turlough is the morally dubious Doctor Who companion. He's the one who came on board with the intention of killing the Doctor in the first place. And he's the one who's not always the good guy. So what he might be saying when he shouts, "Yes, Turlough, run for your life," is, "Hey, guys, don't forget to catch the other one."
Right, here's the thing. It is not a great story. It is not a well-made tale. It has got, quite possibly, 60s included, I'd even say Absorbaloff included, the worst Doctor Who monster of all time. But what keeps us watching? What keeps a child from losing faith in every episode of Doctor Who? I will tell you, it's the Doctor. If you can believe in the Doctor, then you can believe in absolutely everything else. And that's the great thing. An actor of Peter Davison's quality, when he says a line, you go, "I'm with him." And he, at the end of episode 2, it's a great cliffhanger. It's pretty much the end of episode 2, when we finally see the worst monster in Doctor Who history, the Merca, somehow crash down these massive doors made of absolutely nothing. Somehow this pantomime fish gets through these double doors made of fuck all And that's when Peter Davison, the man that we trust, so he has to say something that we'll go, yes. And he goes, oh dear, the Merca. And I went, yeah, I was thinking that. And if he's saying it, then we're all right. We're all right. It's like if you go to a comedy club and, one of the acts dies in their arse, and then the compere comes back up and goes, well, that wasn't very good. Somehow the audience is going, right, good, we're on board now. Yeah, as long as you have faith, everything's fine. Praise the Lord.
So you say that the Peter Davison was just highlighting one of the open spots being a bit ropey.
Oh, yeah. Really, really, really. Oh, God, listen. He'll only be on for 5 minutes. Let's just get... and then we'll get rid of the stink. Yeah.
I have heard Mark Strickson talking about this, and he said that they hadn't seen the Merca until the day of shooting. And in the script, it's this eel-like, snaky, fast-moving...
They've kept in touch ever since, though, right? Sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're pen pals. He writes in Squid Ink, I believe. It was really threatening on the page, and then the costume department. Yeah, the costume department delivered something that, instead of being snaky and eel-like and fast-moving, was so heavy that it needed a crane to lift it onto the backs of the two people playing it. And the first time they saw it, all the actors on the TARDIS crew just went. So that's what you see on, as Michael says, that's what you see on the screen.
I guess we all look terrifying on paper if you described us in prose. But then in real life, you're like, oh, he's a cream puff. So Allan,
it's like the Merca was basically like the monster equivalent of internet dating. He'd sent in a photo of his much more handsome granddad in military uniform and lied about his height.
Being catfished, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's right. Which is actually surprisingly appropriate for an underwater episode.
My mind's just gone like that. The Doctor who invented catfishing. Can we save the episode though?
Can we? Sorry, Alan, after you.
No, go on. You're still presenting the defence. Go on.
I was just going to say, can we give a moment just to reflect upon the cliffhangers, which is like that's as important a moment to Doctor Who as anything else. I mean, it's probably the most important moment of any Doctor Who story. As long as we get those cliffhangers, we're going to... Right. The cliffhanger of episode 1, do we remember what happened? It's amazing. The Doctor falls into a very small swimming pool. Like he's fallen... I think he's been in the water for a second, maybe a second and a half. And that's when it's when Turlough goes, the Doctor is dead. Face it, Tegan. What? And here's the thing. To be fair to Tegan, she does. Like seconds later, she's got better run. She absolutely really comes to terms with the fact that the Doctor is dead. And actually, it turns out he's not dead. He's wet. And they got the two very much confused.
Face it, Tegan. The Doctor is damp.
So, any last points to either save or delete on either side before we come to a decision?
Well, I mean, Michael pointed out earlier that the Silurians in this invented sliding doors, which makes them directly responsible for Gwyneth Paltrow's goop candles that smell like vagina. So,
right,
I would say that's a strike against.
I didn't say they invented sliding doors. I just said they made them.
Perfected. Perfected.
I definitely wouldn't say perfected. They were a bit sticky. I mean, they're under the sea.
Okay.
And not Merca-proof, clearly.
I think, just bearing in mind that Merca, I mean, I've not seen this serial, but I'm off-put by the name Merca. It's not that far away from Merkin.
Yeah. It's horrible.
And that's all that's sticking in my brain now. And just by the fact that nobody has given a spirited enough defense to make me watch this.
Okay. Then maybe we need a bit of fun. Do we need a bit of fun? Let's have a bit of fun. I'm sure you do know the answer to this, and I don't mind if you give the answer because it's a fun fact. Who played the part of the Merca? Do you not know?
No.
It's the two men. No, I wish, but it's almost as good an answer. It's the two men who played the part of the pantomime horse in Rent-A-Ghost.
Oh, wow, okay.
I mean, that's good. Also, the story is dedicated to John Pertwee. So,
when he was still alive. I see.
Yeah. They got in there early.
Now, my final call. As much as I love old school television centre stories, like have you done on Rent-A-Ghost? Can you come here in 5 minutes? We've got something else for you. And then all of a sudden they're in Doctor Who. I love stories like that. But I think purely because every other point was prefixed with "It's not a great story." It's not a great story. For that reason, I'm afraid Warrior of the Deep is going to be permanently deleted. Warrior of the Deep is the first one being struck off.
That is exactly why I should never be in charge of an arranged marriage.
He's not great looking, and he's got no personality. But you're gonna get on well. So that's 2 safe for Alan, 1 safe for Michael, and 1 deleted for Michael. How many more stories do we have?
1 each, I think. Can I just say, by the way, on the point of John Pertwee getting an episode dedicated to him while he was still alive, the Doctor Who Appreciation Society got a plaque up to John Pertwee in the New Wimbledon Theatre, which was the theatre he worked in most commonly. And his widow, Ingeborg Pertwee, came along to the opening of the plaque. And as she was sort of doing the presentation, she said, the only thing John Pertwee wouldn't have liked about this blue plaque is he would have wanted to be alive to see it. So that's very much, you'd very much captured the man's essence there, Michael, I think.
There you go.
Right, so before we go any further, right. Our next episode, please.
Is, as I promised, Love and Monsters.
Oh. Spirited Defense, because I loathe this episode. So why should it be saved?
It's a classic. For those of you who aren't familiar with the plot of Love and Monsters, it's a David Tennant-ish, but it's a Doctor Who light episode in which Mark Warren very ably leads a cast of excellent supporting actors and Peter Kay into a story about people going missing all over London, and it turns out they're being absorbed into a monster called Absorber Love. And as I say this, I realise that I've gone for another emotional blackmail episode, because the bloody monster was designed. It was the result of a Blue Peter Kid competition for fuck it. But luckily it was a shit design for a monster, so fuck that kid. It's fun. Don't fuck that kid. Fuck that kid. So yeah, so that basically that's the plot. It features Mark Warren doing a lot of talking to camera, a lot like this. So as you know, as with so many of Michael's things, I think he's predicted lockdown quite well. There are some comedy hijinks with Doctor and Rose and a bucket, which are very like the old-fashioned Looney Tunes, Donald Duck and Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny chasing each other in doorways and round corridors and things, which is lovely to see and very well done, the physical farce element. And it's the fact is that one of the greatest victories for this episode is that it showed the world that Peter Kay is a monster, and I think that needed to be done, because a lot of people were under the implication that he was a cuddly northerner before that, and he's just a prick, really, isn't he? So that came in very handy for the restitution of England's correct viewpoint of stand-up comedians.
I think if we're grasping for positives, is that it massively lowered my expectations of what a Doctor Who light episode was going to be like. So when on the next series, when Blink appeared, it completely blew my mind, because I thought, oh, this is going to be shite. Wow.
See, I think that's. I mean, Blink is far better than Love and Monsters. There's no question about that.
But my expectations were so low going into it.
I think that's unfair because I think Mark Warren is a charismatic actor, and I think he holds the cast together well in the absence of the Doctor and Rose as a primary character. So I don't think that's necessarily fair. I think a lot of the problem with this story comes from the monster, and if you take Peter Kay out of the equation, what you've got is quite a nice character piece about about how people who have been affected in the wake of the Doctor, how their lives have changed, and this is something we don't see a lot of until such time as the Sarah Jane Smith adventures. Quite often what we get is the Doctor turns up, buggers around with everything's different, and then he pisses off, and whoever's left behind has to pick up the pieces, and we never see how that goes. And Love and Monsters is part of that whole kind of David Tennant thing, where it examines the emotional impact of the Doctor on other people's lives.
I am remembering now a good performance from Rose's mum, if we're talking about the aftermath of the Doctor buggering off. So I'd forgotten about that until you mentioned that. So, Michael, your thoughts?
Well, I also think it's a nice little nod to Doctor Who fans who somewhat, are of course. I'm not saying they are thought of as nerdy. They are nerdy. And but the idea that they're reflected in an episode that is actually, I actually think, as far as that direction goes, it's quite sweet. You see fans of Doctor Who, and they feel slightly outside. Then they meet. Then they become friends, or indeed lovers. I think if it's got a negative part, I 100% agree. I don't think Peter Kay should be in Doctor Who or Things. Shouldn't be. If he's left out of Things, then I think the Thing's better. I don't know if you've ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, but Peter Kay's not in it, and I think it's very good. And I'm not saying this because of that, but
right.
if you have a thought of what Raiders of the Lost Ark would be like if he was in it, and all of a sudden,
it's hard to imagine he would improve it by his presence. Yes,
if he was in an Indiana Jones film, it'd be the big stone ball.
Yeah, or the cunt. Anyway, I think he'd be that.
Sometimes you don't need nuance. Just straight out.
No. It's cunts, Jack. I hate cunts. No. So, have I suddenly gone very dark? And I don't mean in tone. I mean literally.
You've gone down a notch, but it went dark when you first said cunt. So that's
right.
That was beautiful timing.
There was no twilight. It was just nighttime.
It's like the storm clouds of a vengeful god are rolling in over your...
Peter Kay just turned up at my window.
Close the blind. He's got garlic bread. Close the blind.
So here's the thing. This is what I don't like about it. It's got a blowjob joke in it, and I hate it. I hate that there's a blowjob joke in Doctor Who. It really, really annoys me. It's no matter what, it is a family show, and I know I'm not that into that sort of family values, but it makes me go, oh, that shouldn't have been in there. And all of a sudden, then I feel prudish, and I get upset with myself. When really, I should be blaming Peter Kay. I know he had nothing to do with it, but I'm going to fucking blame him anyway.
True.
He may have had a pass at the script. You never know.
Yeah.
So far, the reasons for saving is imagine it without Peter Kay, which is a massive chunk of the episode gone. But also the
don't call him that.
Yeah, Mark Warren and Rosa's mum, which I think were the only really highlights.
Emotional core of the show. That's what's it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I know this was the second series, and that when they were writing this, they were only sort of like getting an idea of the popularity of it, the fact that it worked, and they'd got a new Doctor, and there was problems. They were still finding their feet, but on the other hand, it was still a major science fiction franchise, and not Russell T Davies's YouTube channel, which is how it felt at some point.
Can I point out that Love and Monsters is a Doctor Who light episode, which means that they used it to free up the Doctor for other things in the schedule. So if Love and Monsters didn't exist, all the other episodes in that series would have been worse.
So I suppose with that, and it did pave the way for some really good Doctor Who light episodes. In fact, there was one. Yeah. There was one which was a Doctor Who light episode, which he didn't even realise because it was so cleverly filmed. The Matt Smith one, where Amy is on her own on this planet for 40 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so that's an excellent
yeah. So that was Doctor Light because it was filmed at completely different times because of the scheduling. So I think this was the template of, oh dear, we must do better. So if this was permanently deleted, the creativity that came after that wouldn't have happened. So
that would include. Yeah, sorry, no, carry on.
Yeah, so I think you've achieved the impossible, Alan. I think you've just saved an episode I genuinely loathe.
Yes.
So for that, I think that Love and Monsters has got to stay for the negative good that it does for the franchise as a whole.
Exactly.
So, are we on our final episode?
We are.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so what's the final episode?
This is the one that I'm going to defend. I think it is absolutely one of the Doctor Who stories that I think fans are most vocal about hating it. And it's Delta and the Bannermen. And I'm going to tell you now, I don't know why anyone doesn't like this episode. I don't see that this is the bad guy story in Doctor Who. I think that the story is actually really good. It's not made any worse than I'd say a whole bunch of other Doctor Who's. That's not much of a defense, I'll give it that. But the story's really good and the concept's great. The concept of there is a tour bus that brings aliens from all around the galaxy, including an alien bus driver. It takes them to 1950s Barry Island Butlins for a holiday. It's amazing. And the idea that this constantly happens. This isn't a one-off trip. This isn't a chance of a lifetime for some aliens. This is always happening. So, in our reality, any time that anyone ever went to Barry Island Butlins in 1959, they were holidaying with a bunch of aliens. And it's a great concept. I think it's a great concept. Now, never mind sort of like, oh, that's a charming 80s Doctor Who thing. I think if New Who had a story, when do we stop calling it New Who? I will never stop calling it New Who. I think if it was something that charming, I'd be, I'm into this.
Is this the same alien tour company that rebuilt the Titanic for Voyage of the Damned? Because it sounds like they had similar ideas.
Yeah, that is true. I never thought of that. In that case, that company went really downhill after the 80s. I think it's extremely good. I think I don't know really what the story was, but I could say that about constant amount of Doctor Who's, and it's never really stopped me enjoying it. I don't know why the Bannermen were angry with Delta necessarily or wanted to kill her. I know she was some sort of like space queen and she will bring balance to the Force. I got confused. I was watching a lot of sci-fi and I don't really know, but I do know that at the end of episode 1 of this story that I was completely ready to loathe and I didn't watch it at the time. It has to be said. I didn't watch it at the time. I think I watched it about 15 years ago. And I've seen it several times since. And it just went, that disco ball is giving birth to a green baby head. And I don't know what else Doctor Who fans want if it's not an episode ending with a baby head being born. A baby head that oozes. Wee-oo, dun-ga-da-dum, disco theme tune. Then the next episode, that child grows up really, really quickly, like within a day, the kid's 40 or something. And one of the Barry Island locals, one of the guys that works for Butlins, he's a bit of a lad, he's a bit of a cheeky fella, but he's a hunk. And Delta has fallen for him. This guy called Billy. He sings in a rock and roll band. So no matter what planet you're from, you're going to fuck the guy in the band, right? I mean, that's just, I'm going to do it. We're all going to do it. He's in the band. That's the guy. He falls equally for Delta. They're a good-looking couple. And he notices that the baby, who is now, it looks like a 7-year-old child, but is only an hour and a half old, she's singing. And he's really impressed with her because he's a singer. And he's going, it's not really, really nice. She sings. And that's when it delivers what I think is a properly dark line. She goes, yeah, she uses it as a form of defense. And I went, oh, fucking hell. It's like, like Morrissey did in the 80s. It was like, singing was basically his form of defense. And I thought, God, that's quite, and it's not until later in the story that you actually, oh no, she really means it. Like she can kill people with her voice. But I just thought that was an amazing sort of emotional...
now wishes he could do.
Right. Yes. Well, in a way, he sort of has. His voice has definitely killed us off a lot, one by one. Cool. I think it's a genuinely good story. It's got the 80s production values that, quite frankly, we accept and, we live with. But it's got a really good story. The bad guys are pantomime bad guys, but that's all right. The Doctor is I think Sebastian McCoy's pretty good throughout the episode. I admit he delivers a hell of a stupid line at some point. I've written it down. He says to, can you remember the name of the bad guy? He's got bollock or something like that. Anyway, he just goes, "You promise life, but in the end, life will defeat you." What? It's. I don't think life. That's not what dying is. It's not. Well, life got one over on me. No, it's just dying. So it's not without its flaws. But I will never understand how Doctor Who fans think, "Oh God, yeah, that's as low as it gets." I think it's pretty bloody good.
Okay, I mean, well, whilst you were giving your defence of it, I thought, well, I'm not that familiar with this story, so I'll quickly look it up. And by the looks of things, in the first paragraph, even Wikipedia gives up because all it says is, in this serial, aliens called Bannermen tracked down the Chimeran Queen Delta to a Welsh holiday camp in 1959 so they can kill her, and that's it. So that is,
to be fair, there is very little else than that. I will give you that.
Okay. So is this was this early McCoy? So it'll be still Bonnie Langford.
Yeah. Mel's there.
How is Bonnie Langford in this serial?
She's, it's not her fault. It's not her fault. It's not her fault. She's not well written. She's just not. And there's one point where a gun is pointed at her head. And then when Delta, who's holding the gun, finally puts the gun down, Mel's like, oh, let's sit down and have a chat. Are you out of your fucking mind? Why aren't you at least urinating? Just have some sort of human reaction to a gun being, you could have died. But no, she puts the kettle on. But that's not her fault. It's nothing is. I think that about so many actors in Doctor Who. I think that about every Doctor. I don't think any Doctor is bad at being the Doctor. They're always great. But this is just another example where maybe they could have spent a bit more time on getting Mel right. But the basic concept, a holiday bus from space goes to Barry Island, I'm on board.
Okay. So, Allan, Delta and the Bannerman, Michael's given a better defense than it's not a great story.
He's learning as he goes along, just like the master. Yeah.
So, for or against?
I think one of the worst crimes Delta and the Bannermen commits is it absolutely wastes Ken Dodd. And I sprang to Sylvester's defense earlier, saying he wasn't an actor when he started and he got better as he went along. Thing is, Ken Dodd was an actor. He'd been a hugely acclaimed Malvolio in the West End. He was an excellent actor. And all he does in the show is he plays Ken Dodd. And the reason for that is that nobody was directing him. And I've heard Sylvester McCoy speaking about this at a convention. And apparently, when Ken Dodd was doing the scene where he's kidnapped by the Bannermen, which isn't terribly convincing because he's doing his Mrs. Whoa bleh business, the director and the producer was sat in a caravan, not on the site, just watching it on a monitor, going, well, what the fuck is Ken Dodd doing here? And Sylvester McCoy was, well, if you don't like what he's doing, get out and direct him. But they didn't. So instead of a dramatic performance, you get this rather insipid semi-comic turn from him, which is a dreadful waste. And I think what Micheal has very much glossed over in his defense of the great concept of aliens visiting Barry Island in 1959 is that it put the whole production crew and the cast through weeks of being stuck in Barry Island in a simulated 1959, which is hell on earth by anybody's description, which is presumably why they have to get people not from Earth to holiday there to fill the camper.
Is that not a sort of initiation ceremony for British sci-fi? Because there was an episode of Red Dwarf where they were all in Rill Beach in February. So at some point, does British sci-fi have to do an episode that's on a South Wales beach in really awful conditions?
It would appear to be so, wouldn't it? It seems like we're unlike the Americans, who are perfectly happy for their stars to have luxury chalets and caravans and trailers and things. We've heard in the one drama class any British child was ever awake for, we heard the phrase "suffer for your art," and now we demand that actors do it.
Because I did see on a DVD extra Craig Charles being swaddled in a thermal blanket so he didn't die because he's had to wear shorts for this scene. So if you've got visions of the cast of Delta and the Bannermen doing something similar, then that makes me actually a bit more sympathetic towards it. So,
you've got to remember that unlike Craig Charles, Bonnie Langford didn't have that amount of body fat to keep her warm.
That's true.
She was always a dancer. She never carried any spare tires around, so she must have been freezing.
So in its defense, if the production problems were out of the way, if they had like a decent director, the characters who were flawed were a bit more fleshed out, do you think that it could have been more classic Who? Do you think it had the bones there at least?
I think it definitely does. I mean, again, I'll just go back. I think the concept alone is good fun. It is a little bit. It's disappointing, but only from a production point of view, and certainly not performance necessarily, with the odd exception, and certainly not concept. But it's exactly as you say. They have spent a bit more time on it, maybe, and thought about giving Mel a decent line.
Yeah, well, I think Michael's just made my case for me here. I think we'd be better off deleting the show and just reading about the concept and imagining how great it could have been.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so my final call then on Delta and the Bannermen, purely because that any sci-fi fandom is made greater, I think, by people pointing out how much better it would have been if they were in charge. That's true of anything. And if that's taken away, then something goes from a show. So for that, our final one, Delta and the Bannermen, is saved from the Purge. So the Bannermen is saved. So I believe we've come to the end. So the final score is Allan has saved 3 from an Eternal Purge. Michael, you've saved 2, but 1 got deleted, Warriors of the Deep.
So does that mean I've won? I mean, I've got rid of Warriors of the Deep.
That is an achievement.
That is an achievement. I guess there's merit all round. So there's what I'm saying is nobody's won here. So,
I mean, We could have spent a lot less. We could have just saved some time. Just gone. We're all a bunch of losers.
And did you drop the C-bomb again? Because it's gotten a lot darker in the last 20 minutes in your room.
Oh no! This is just my natural personality coming out into the room.
Ah, right. We're seeing your aura.
I really should have paid that electricity bill. God damn it.
Okay, so before we finish, we'd just like to point out once again this webcast is dedicated to the memory of Jon Pertwee. I've got his name right. That's John, not Jon.
I mean, that's embarrassing. It is.
No,
it could be a different Jon Pertwee.
He's not going to complain.
That's true. The best.
Yeah, we already know he would have hated that. So actually, you've done it absolutely. You've nailed it.
Weirdly, I would have. I think
you should take a leaf out of Michael's book, and I think you should take a leaf out of Michael's book and dedicate this episode to Sean Pertwee.
Okay, yeah, that's better.
Or me.
Actually, is that SEAN or SHAU? All right, okay. I know what's better. I'll just put it's dedicated to the memory of
Pertwees in general.
A Pertwee.
Yeah.
So any Pertwee at all.
Yeah.
So that's the end of. So that's the end of You Can't Polish the Time Lord. Thank you to Allan Lear and Micheal Legge for arguing the cases for all of the serials that we've heard. We will be back if you write in and demand it, but until then, we won't be. So for now, enjoy the rest of the festival. But from us, it is goodbye.
Goodbye.